Rent calculator, how much rent can you afford? Let's begin with the basics, then we'll get into some common questions and concerns. What is rent? When you pay rent, you are paying to lease someone else's property for a period of time. Many different types of buildings are available to rent, such as apartments, offices, and detached houses. The term rent generally refers to the amount you pay your landlord each month to use the property. Should I rent or buy? Deciding whether to purchase or rent is a significant decision that has implications for your financial well-being, lifestyle, and personal objectives. Which choice you select is totally dependent on your lifestyle and financial circumstances. Both demand a consistent source of income, so you can afford the payments and associated expenditures, and may also necessitate some work to keep up with. However, there are a number of distinctions between renting and owning property. You don't have all of the duties of homeownership when you rent a house, and you have more freedom because you aren't tied down to your home. Owning a home gives you lots of benefits too, but it comes at a high price in comparison to renting. If you are still wondering is it better to rent or buy, then you may find it useful to use our rent calculator to see how much rent you can afford. Check the link in the description. You can also calculate your living costs using the living cost calculator to get a clearer picture of your financial situation. How much rent can I afford? Paying rent can be a very consistent cost which can make things easier for you to plan your finances. You'll know your expenses up front and can budget appropriately. Renting, on the other hand, may be more expensive than owning a property if you live a luxury lifestyle. Rent should not exceed 30% of gross, before tax, monthly income, according to most personal finance experts. Another goal is to spend no more than 50% of after-tax income on rent, electricity, and other monthly living costs. There is no exact number to follow as rental prices largely depend on location and market demand, so the easiest approach to figure it out is to write down how much money you make each month, how much you spend on living costs, and how you'd like to save. Then adjust your spending plan accordingly based on your own financial situation and goals. A useful way to calculate the amount of rent you can afford is to use a rent calculator. Simply enter the recurring expenses that you spend on average each month and let the calculator do the rest. How can I reduce rent? You might be asking yourself how much rent can I afford, especially in recent times with so much uncertainty in the world. Whether you're facing financial difficulties as a result of a job loss or unanticipated medical expenditures as a result of an accident, a lower rent might provide much needed respite. The landlord wants to know that you'll be able to pay your rent at some time in the future. Emphasize that, no matter how responsible you are, you could not have anticipated this event. If your landlord is able to empathize with you and feels confident that you have good intentions, then it's likely that he or she will try to accommodate you. From the perspective of the landlord, it is much better for them to have a tenant than having a vacant until that doesn't generate any income each month. When is it better to buy instead of rent? There are both practical and intangible advantages to owning a home. You receive a sense of security and pride of ownership in addition to having your own house and being able to make decisions regarding the style and design of the place. Renting has many benefits too. You can relocate anytime your lease expires if you rent. However, if your landlord decides to sell the property or convert your apartment complex into condominiums, you may be forced to relocate quickly. They might just raise the rent to an amount that you cannot pay, with little warning. This is a common fear among tenants. Take into account, however, that because real estate is an illiquid asset, changing your mind about where you live may be quite costly. It's possible that you won't be able to sell when you desire. Even if you find one, you might not be able to acquire it for the price you desire, especially if the housing market is down. If you want to calculate how much rent you can afford, then check out the rent calculator link in the video description.